Skype is Omotayo Jesu Shola, an entrepreneur and CEO, Carrigo Africa Logistics. Thank you so much for joining us as well. Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right, I will begin with you, Jesu Shola. Talk to us from your point of view. How do you think we got to this point? 33.3%. That's quite a number.
Well, it's alarming. It's staggering. I think one of the things that we've not done right in the past is to continue with the efforts of past governments and see how we can deploy a concerted effort. Unemployment, the staggering figure didn't just arrive. We didn't just get here overnight. And so I would like to think that in the past, we got a lot of things wrong. We had skills mismatch. We had things like neglect of some sectors, agriculture sector. We focused a lot on oil, and indeed, today, oil is now gradually taking the back seat. We also suffered poor governance. You'd agree with me also that instability in the electricity department has also affected businesses, and that cascades, it just naturally flows down and affects employees and indeed produces staggering unemployment figures. These are some of the things that I think we got wrong in the past.
All right, let's bring the conversation to the studio to Babatunde Raimi here. I wonder, as a policy analyst, government is supposed to be a continuum, and we know that all of the various governments that have come into power have one way or the other tried to address these issues of unemployment, yet we're getting the results. You mentioned something about not continuing efforts of past government. I wonder if you also see that as part of the problem, and what you also see as being how we got to this point.
Thank you. I quite agree with him, and I must say that until we do away with favoritism, tribalism, and nepotism, putting square round pegs in round holes, we will still be facing this plague of unemployment, which is just one of the problems facing Nigeria.
Absolutely.
So that I think if we're able to do that, then we as Nigeria, when I talk about unemployment on the one side, underemployment on the other side.
Right.
We are talking about, you just said from your introductory statement, 30 million Nigerians. That's more than the number of some people in a particular nation. So if 30 million are unemployed, what about the underemployed? People who are working and still have their CVs in their bag. People who are working and they don't really like what they are doing just because they want to survive. People who are working maybe part-time. So these two go hand in hand. So we as individuals, I talk mostly to individuals because it's about us. We as individuals sometimes will say, I hate politics, I don't like politics, and we elect people who lack basic knowledge of micro and macroeconomic indices that stabilizes an economy. So if we continue to do that, and these people will go there, these are the people that will make laws for us, life above vacuum. If we fail to do it, they'll just go there and it's sad, it's very sad.
It's sad, but then there's some, I would like for you to expatiate on some of the points you mentioned. You talked about favoritism. When you say favoritism, in what sense are we looking at now? Square pegs in round hole, nepotism, expatiate on this issue.
Favoritism means that, let me simplify by saying I have a company, I'm Yoruba, and I have an Ngozi, maybe the people came for a job, and I have an Ngozi who came first. But because somebody came in and I realized that it's from Ede, I say, no, actually, put this person. I have acted using tribal sentiments. Somebody comes and maybe for the same interview, I realized that maybe one Tunji is better than Okafor. And because I'm an Igbo man, I say, okay, this person is the child of my friend. Do you understand? So that's about favoritism. And nepotism is only my own people, which is a major whatever in this government. It's only my own people that can do it. That's how we found ourselves here. And not just unemployment, which has also cascaded into the security challenges that we are having. And you see that the crime wave just keeps going up until we do away. Look at, for instance, now in our university system, we must do away with tribalism, all this catchment area nonsense. Because when you do that, you will not be able to get the best hand to study and build our economy.
As it stands, can we really do away with all of those issues, talking about tribalism? Because it's more like a second nature for when it comes to Nigeria. This is where I come from. This is who I am. This is who we are. These issues of tribalism, which is a conversation that a lot of Nigerians are beginning to have, that perhaps we need to begin to look at these issues. Jesus Shola, I wonder if it is something you think we also need to address when it comes to these issues of unemployment. Is it something we can really deal with? Because Babatunde here is saying that that is one key issue that has to be addressed. How challenging is it going to be?
This is actually one of the biggest issues we face when it comes to unemployment. And, this has left sour taste in some people's mouth. Can we deal with it? Yes. Can we live with it? Yes. As it were, it is already institutionalized. And so I think the way to address it is to live with it. In doing this, the people who are in positions of power, who have influence, should ensure that it goes round. And I think maybe that was how we came about catchment area, came about the quota system and all of that. But when you look at the bigger picture, does this system serve us? It doesn't. And that is why we're here. That is why Nigeria has remained a country that keeps running, we're making motion without movement. It is something that a leader, and everything rises and falls on leadership. It's something that a leader from the top must fix. Tribalism, favoritism, nepotism, these are cankerworms that are eaten deep into our fabrics. And I agree with Babatunde that indeed we can deal with it. But in dealing with it, it's not something that we will finish overnight. It's not something that will give a knockout overnight. That's my take.
We can deal with it. Now, addressing these issues of unemployment, the government once said that it is going to ensure that 100 million Nigerians are, lifted out of poverty in 10 years. You're laughing. And also, the government recently, through its media aide, Femi Adesina, said the federal government is planning to ensure that about 7 million Nigerians are going to be, plans to fund 7 million Nigerians out of poverty by 2030 through the Industrial Training Fund. And then there were also social intervention measures put in place to also address these issues of poverty, unemployment, tackling these things. Would you say that all of the measures put in place by government were really clear-cut and able to address these issues at the root? Or why didn't it address the issues at the root?
I won't say that, and that still takes me back to micro and macroeconomic principles from where I started my discussion while I was trying to explain. If you don't understand macroeconomics, regardless of what level of leadership you are, you don't understand fiscal policies, you don't understand monetary policy, you will continue to make type 1 and type 2 error, accepting what you are supposed to reject and rejecting what you are supposed to accept. So in this case now, governments, they can come and say, maybe Millennium Goals, Project 2020, Project 2030, as long as they tell us what we want to hear. But the thing is that we don't have vivid pictures of where the economy is going. Let us tackle this unemployment problem from the roots. Let government tell us this is what we are doing, and let us see physically. Most of us live in Nigeria. We don't even feel the presence of our local governments. Do you understand? That's where it starts from. When you feel the presence of a local government, I stay in Festac, for instance, and since I've been living in Festac, I've never met one Ayo Adewale before, one local government.
How come?
No, I'm trying to say something. I've never met him before, but living in Festac, during his tenure as, there was a reason why I said I've never met him before. During his tenure as the local government chairman of Festac, I know so many of my friends who were unemployed, who got something to do, they started, where are you working? Local government, where are you working? So when you feel the impact of the local government, it becomes easy for it to cascade to state and federal government. So if you look at it, let's stop all this mouth, whatever. We want to see action. And what is the plan on ground? Proper prior planning prevents poor performance. If there is a plan, what these people just do, they just come up with manifestos, so we vote for them and...
All right, if we are talking about proper planning, let's take the conversation back to Jesu Shola. Talking about proper planning to address these issues of unemployment and ensuring that we tackle it holistically, especially from the root. So where do we begin? Jesu Shola, if you are there, can you hear me? All right, let's bring the conversation back to the studio now. If we are to tackle all of these issues, in talking about unemployment holistically and from the root, where do we begin?
I want to say that we begin from education.
Why education?
Very good question. Look at our educational system. How many people studied chemistry?
Lots of them.
And they're actually working as a chemist.
Okay.
How many people studied Yoruba and are actually teaching the subject Yoruba? So the main issue is that if you look at our educational system, for instance now, the syllabus, everything is a cake. So we need to go back to, it might take us 2 years. We need to have, when I talk about planning, I'm talking about short, medium, and long-term plans. Let us go back to our primary schools. Let's have qualified guidance and counseling coaches who will be employed by government, even in private schools. From there, you begin to determine, when you know what a child is, you begin to encourage, counsel. We send the same thing to secondary schools. So when people graduate, they can actually apply for the job, something that they studied, and enjoy what they are doing. So that with that, we will be tackling the underemployment, whatever, directly. So when we do that, another thing is, let us have more vocational schools. Our technical schools now, they are like even primary schools. Let us have, there's a song in Yoruba that says, permit me, that say, Iṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀ níṣẹ́ ilẹ̀ wa, ẹni kò ṣiṣẹ́. That place that they said, ìwé kíkọ́ láìsí ọkọ́, iṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀, we are farmers, agree is our thing. That anybody that does not work will steal. Because the idle hand is the devil's workshop. You say, ìwé kíkọ́ láìsí ọkọ́. Learning, educating yourself without hoe. Kò ì pé o. What it means that it's not complete. That hoe that was mentioned in that song is not the traditional hoe. That hoe is a skill. So if you are a graduate and you don't have a skill, is a misnomer. In this era that we have now, if you're a goat in Nigeria, even if you travel to America, you'll still be a goat. So if we add, from education, if we add education with skill, by the time I'm graduating, I'm a doctor, but I'm also a tailor. I know a particular tailor in Festac, Paramount, Ogashola. He has trained over 20-something graduates who did not see job. They were unemployed. They went to Ogashola, please teach us how to, they stooped. They swallowed their pride. They went to him, teach us how to sew. And today they are doing very well.
How many youths are ready to do that now?
They are just poor and proud. They are just poor and proud. So if we keep saying government, I don't know how long government will help us, but we need to start helping ourselves. And until we sit back and have a meeting with ourselves, I think the unemployment rate will keep going up. Also, you look at rural-urban migration. When you look at Nollywood, let me quickly say that the unemployment thing is not just a Nigerian thing. It's a global thing, especially during the pandemic, which increased it. But the way and manner at which you manage it is what is key. Now, when you look at Nollywood films, they just show you fine houses in Lagos, fine. So your mother in the village is telling you, there's one Okechukwu that went to the village last year. Okechukwu, I'm glad you are smiling. But now, you too, go to Lagos, go and do what okay. So the idea is that when you migrate from that place to this place, you understand, you see, but if the government makes electricity and transportation, everything, let them not come and give us 10-point agenda. Let them just give us 2-point agenda. electricity and good road, you see that the migration level will reduce, so that these people coming to the urban areas, it will reduce in competing with the few jobs that we have here.
Let's have Jesus Shola's perspective to how we should address these issues holistically, tackling it from the root. Can you hear me? Jesus Shola, can you hear me? All right, it seems we're having a challenge with him, getting to hear us. Now, what you have said now seems to be on the short term. On the long term, because these plans have to be made to addressing this issue. The future of Nigeria is seemingly hanging in a balance with these rising numbers. And as you would recall that the projection is that by 2030 or 2050, Nigeria will be the third most populous country in the world. And if at this stage we are grappling with 33.3% and we are not having concrete plans in place, then I wonder where we are headed.
Do you know that every problem is a business?
Right.
That's a statement by Miles Monroe. Do you know that while others were saying there's a casting down during the pandemic era, others were saying there's a lifting up.
Yeah.
That's because as at that time, I think the government I'm sure that we have not developed our own COVID-19 vaccine, so we're waiting to say, okay, what is happening? Do you know that while some people were lamenting, especially those who were employed, gainfully employed, those who had skills did not really suffer that, whatever. Especially Mama Shukura that was selling pepper. You will see somebody, maybe a level, say, go to Mama Shukura, go and collect 2,000, I'll give you later. Because those people are always liquid. But because these people, their view is myopic, they have been enslaved and entrapped by the trap of salary, which most of the time is given to you to forget your ambition. So if we keep saying government, we will not move forward. Let us look at it from a personal perspective. During the pandemic era, some people discovered their skill, they started working on it, and today, I know some people that did not resume to their various offices because they started doing something. So if you are not making money, if you are not economically liquid as at this time, it's because you are not solving problems. So coming from the quote of Miles Monroe that every problem is a business, let's begin to look for problems that will begin to solve. And the truth
as individuals.
And the truth is that you don't really need money to start whatever business that you have decided to do. The reason is simple. Your integrity is your greatest currency. If you're a good person and you want to start, I know so many people that started a POS business.
Good is relative, I hope you know.
Yes, I do. Now, you see, when you have an idea and you cannot pick an idea that will cost 50,000 naira, and you cannot pick 5 people from your circle that will give you 10,000 naira, you need to change your circle. I don't want to talk about government. I'm tired of talking about government. Let's look at ourselves. Let's look inward. What can we do? By the time I try to do something for myself, you try to do something for yourself, everybody try to do something.
But there's no way we can, separate government from all of this, because government has to create the enabling environment for your business to thrive as an individual. Because if the enabling, you mentioned electricity earlier. If it is not, who will bring that? It is government's duty to ensure that you have electricity. Yes, you have to generate your own electricity at some point, but then government has to create that enabling environment. It is the duty of government. So whether we like it or not, we must talk about government's role.
I agree with you that we must talk about government role, but now we have looked at another 10 years plan. Should we now sit back and keep waiting for government? What I'm saying is there's always something for you to do. And I'll also tell you that, do you know that it's not really that there are no jobs? That's another narrative.
So what is the problem? We are not looking in the right direction.
In some cases, it's not really. Some people, you realize that I have a job platform, for instance. I connect with some HR people who send me briefs and I just send it to. Some people will tell me, please, can you help me? I say, no. apply. If you qualify, they will take you. Most people are not qualified for some of these jobs. And now, I know that in the insurance and banking sector, you can work in the insurance and banking sector as long as you have a certificate, maybe HND, BSc. You can work as a commission agent and start from there and start doing something for yourself.
So it's now more about capacity building.
Capacity building. Let me tell you now, there are some graduates that since they graduated over 5 years, 10 years, do you understand? They are still living in their parents' house. They cannot think of. That means that the 5 years, 6 years, 7 years that they spent in school was used to raise an employee. So the 7 years that you use in school cannot come out. You cannot come out with an idea that you can start. You can always start something. You see some people, they are working, but as they are working in their car, they have different things that they are selling just to augment what they are doing. So while we are praying that one day God will minister to our government to listen to us, man, know thyself.
Very important. That aspect, knowing yourself. I think that's where it begins for the individual. Understanding who you are and what you can do. Talk to us from that perspective quickly before we let you go. How key that is, knowing yourself and knowing what to pursue as an individual.
Yeah, the thing is, there's an atom of greatness in every man. If you merge that with what I said, that every problem is a business, there's an atom of greatness in every man. And I love this guy, Richard Quest of CNN. He said you should turn your passion to portfolio. So, see, let me take a little cue from the textbook of spiritual science. God has embedded in us different gifts and talents, not one. Tell me one company that survives only on one product. So if companies don't survive on one product, why should I survive on one means of income? So God has implanted in us several gifts and talents. Let us begin to ask questions. When we ask questions directly, sometimes these things could be hidden in the things that we don't like to do.
So how do you find passion if it is not in something you like to do for it? That's the big question.
You see, sometimes it doesn't work the way we want it to work. Right. So that's how you also find passion. Most of the billionaires of this world that are just okay. Ibukun Awoshika, you know, the chairman of First Bank, she didn't start out to start supplying bulletproof doors. She just went somewhere. So if you look at that story, it was not, she stumbled into it and said, this is a problem. Okay, in an attempt to solve that problem, today she's one of the major distributors of that particular product in Nigeria. So look inward, there's always something for you to do.
Babatunde Raimi, policy analyst, thank you for your time. And we must thank Omotayo Jesu Shola, CEO, Carigo Africa Logistics, and entrepreneur. Thank you for your time as well.